In today's video, I'm going to talk how to know when your child is full. How parents can improve overall kids' diet, how to achieve an optimal or good eating behavior. A lot of times parents do not ask or do not trust when their child says, I'm full, I don't want to eat anymore. And a lot of times parents will control portion size of their food and will tell them you're not gonna leave table until you finish your plate. Unfortunately, that tactic will not create a positive emotion. It doesn't matter actually, it's just a kid or adult. It doesn't create a positive emotion in your brain because our brain operates with two things, positive and negative. So if you say you're not leaving a table until you're full, until I decide that you're full, that creates negativity in that person. And we treat person, it doesn't matter what's the age actually, is that kid or adult. So you dismiss all this hunger or society cues from little human. And in brain, there are a lot of pathways creates, and usually eating supposed to be positive experience. And because we need positive experience, so we can search and we eat food in order to survive. That's biological, and you cannot change that. If you constantly creating and doing negativity around food, it creates another pathways. So, okay, food, it's not really enjoyment. And unfortunately, this is how our brain works. It doesn't matter actually what the subject is, that food or not food. If there is negativity, we'll try to avoid such situations. So if you have a lot of negativity around food and nothing really positive or negative, it's actually on a scale more than positive, your child will be having tantrums around mealtime. He won't be eating much. Maybe he will try to do whenever he can to avoid eating much. And no one wins in such situation. For a lot of parents, it's quite difficult to trust that hunger cues from their child. And I know it's kind of hard because, for example, my kiddo, she always had small meal since her birth actually. When I was looking how much milk kids supposed to be drinking per day, range will be between 16 ounces to 24. My kiddo barely will hit 16 ounces actually per day. But she was gaining weight pretty normal. So sometimes when you go to internet or whatever, it's just that information creates more anxiety to you. It doesn't help. So what you need to focus actually on your child. There is autonomic nerve system. When your child does not eat enough calories, brain eventually will catch that situation. It doesn't happen within 24 hours. We are humans, can starve and fast for 24 hours without any issues. It doesn't create any difference in hormones. So when your child does not eat one day, nothing is gonna happen next day. You won't see like a huge food intake or anything like that. It's actually a window for that 1 to 2 weeks. Some kids will respond much faster, some kids will respond much slower. And when some parents try to starve their kids so they will eat, they just give up after one single day. It's not gonna happen, it doesn't change. So autonomic nerve system will increase hunger if you are on restricting calorie intake. But for example, my child will probably respond within 3 days or maybe 1 week. So right now she responds much faster actually. When she was much younger, it might take much longer and it was not really visible actually. But there is a huge but actually on this calorie restriction. if your child on calorie restriction for a very long time, let's say it was 1 or 2 year or whatever, and on a growth chart your child weight is like less 6th percentile, so they're on this calorie restriction long enough, and they might not have this hunger cue at all. Because here's the thing, when you're on a calorie restriction, that means probably you are not hitting enough protein intake. When you don't hit protein intake, it's actually impact. Look at this is 2 hormones, which actually production of these hormones depends on your protein intake. That essential amino acids, when you don't have enough amino acids, at first your body, when you're just going to calorie restriction, your brain will increase hunger, will increase dopamine, so you will search food. Dopamine needs to search food actually and eat. It's not like only having good mood, but eventually, if you're still not taking enough protein, you're still on calorie restriction, that hormone production will be shut down. And you don't have that use anymore. This is what's happening with people with ARFID diagnosis and anorexia. At first, you need to replenish that proteins. For adults, if it just started, it can be much easier because at first your body will break down your muscles. But kids usually do not have huge muscle mass. They don't. And especially if your kid are below like 6th percentile, they looks like just bones and skin. You barely see any muscles. And I usually can spot very well such kids who below growth chart. They are so visible because they are not really active, because they don't have energy, they don't have muscles. They, especially arms, it's quite visible. It's like 2 steaks. You need to really count protein intakes for your child. And keep in mind, for protein intake, you need to count only animal source. I will post a screenshot for you what exactly you need to count and how much it needs to be. Because if it's significantly below that normal range, you need to think how you can change that without trying to pressurize your kiddo. You don't leave your table until you finish something. There are some tricks actually which I done, for example, for my kiddo, because she will eat too much carbs or something, not really protein. Right now she's much better, and I see a lot of times when parents really missing that best opportunity to feed exactly proteins. They miss that. Instead of feeding proteins, they give them carbs and just spiraling. And I can tell you, initially, not every single specialist will talk about protein intakes. Only my pediatrician was concerned, and she said we need to work on protein intakes, but she didn't have any advice how exactly. It's quite hard for some parents. And I can tell you, it's a huge difference when your child starts to eat more proteins compared to less proteins. I can see it on my child because I started to pay attention on protein intake on my child like 3 months ago. And it does have huge difference in terms of chart growth. It doesn't happen overnight. You won't see your child gaining weight quite fast and gaining height. No, it's not gonna happen within like 2-3 months. It's more like a long-term goal. And especially, you shouldn't be forcing your child to complete your kids' meal because they are missing that hunger cues. They are missing that signal when they are full. And then they do not create optimal or good eating behavior, which is really matter, because later on it will lead to obesity and a lot of things. I was surprised how many adults right now we have with ARFID. If you go and they cannot eat without looking at screen. And even look at the screen, they eat only their safe food. Some people say, I cannot eat even safe food, help me. They don't hit daily protein intake. If they don't have enough protein intake, there is no physical activity because you don't have energy to do any physical activity. Your body, your brain will send signal to you to conserve energy. Such kids usually they cannot do like regular physical activity on the playground. They are not physically active. Is that normal? Because they don't have enough protein. You cannot expect any physical activity. Yes, they will be interested only to sitting and doing something. Or even like watching cartoons and hitting cheap dopamine. And you need to avoid that one. And it's not really so hard. The only caveat I would say, if your child already on calorie restriction long enough, it's gonna be quite hard because they won't have that signals. The signals will be not really proper. Yes, and it will take some time before they will have proper signal. Anyone who was on a diet, usually a woman on a diet, they will go on a restriction diet. After 1 or 2 months, sometimes they get so much hunger and they get back all their pounds they lost. That's because you are fighting with biology, with autonomic nerve system, and you cannot win that battle. No, you should achieve optimal and good eating behavior, healthy habits. That's not how you should do that. It's completely wrong. Another case, if protein intake very low, it's going to be very hard to trust your child because your child probably will leave table with very small amount of food. And unfortunately, if that small amount of food was completely only carbs, you will be like never-ending battle because you need specific strategies to improve protein intake on your child. Without that one, on this like fullness of your child, on trusting your child, can be very hard. Another case actually, it was, I don't think so, it's really quite common, but in terms of if adults watching this video, I had this scene when I was pregnant. I was literally eating 2 tablespoons and I will feel full. And only after like watching a lot of video gastroenterologists, I found out I had gastritis. When you have gastritis, your stomach actually, when it doesn't have any food in it, it's very small. Then when food is coming, it's supposed to be expanding. But when you have gastritis, your stomach cannot expand. And eating 2 tablespoons, I was feeling fullness because my stomach cannot expand and it's already full. It's normal. And that was interesting. I had a nephew he struggled with gastritis and I believe maybe even ulcer, and age around like 12, 14. Keep in mind that if your child is, I don't know if gastritis happen is in a younger child, I have no idea. I never heard actually, because usually small kids barely get to any gastroenterologist. I have been in gastroenterologist with my child, and gastroenterologist said, I don't think your child has any issues. In case you want to do endoscopy, we can do that, but other than that, your child looks like very strong, opinionated, very strong-willed child. This is what she told me, gastroenterologist. I decided to not go to procedure, but in case you suspect, you can ask referral from your pediatrician to gastroenterologist to talk about it. Another case, she offered, if you want to try, you can try to do antacids for your child and see if it's gonna help, because if you have gastritis, usually when you take antacids, in 2 weeks that gastritis actually heal and stomach can expand and you can see like different eating behavior. But you should consult a doctor. You shouldn't be doing that by yourself for your child. And I don't recall what exactly she prescribed it actually, but I never tried because she was quite old woman actually, and she saw once we were talking, she saw her behavior. She was 18 months old actually. She said she is very strong will. So the whole time I was dealing with strong will child, which means if you try to control such child, you will not have any results. You need to have completely different strategies, which you can learn from me. You can join my free membership on Patreon. Leave me a comment below. What is your main struggle with your child? Is that weight gained? Is that not proper eating behavior, poor habits, watching screen and eating only in front of screen? And I can tell you, it's much easier to fix all this problem in child because their brain developing so fast compared to anyone else older than 20-25 years old. Believe me, I'm 40 plus, and changing any habits in my life takes forever. Literally, it feels forever. In children, it happens much faster. Do not miss this huge opportunity to improve overall health on your kids. Later on, it will be quite hard. And let me show you something. This is chocolate, which my kiddo will not even touch and eat. She ate her yogurt. She ate a little bit her cereal. This is very addictive, actually, very addictive. And she won't even touch, and sometimes it stays on the table almost like all day long, and only by evening she might eat it. But I don't even bother to remove it from table. This is what it's meaning to have healthy diet habits. You can do that too. I can help you.